Welcome, everybody, to episode 2 of our now named podcast, The World is Waiting.
Ever? So thanks for helping us think of the best name. The World is Waiting.
Yes, we love it. I love it so much because Phil says it at the beginning of every season of The Amazing Race. If you don't watch it, like that is one of his taglines. And I feel like it fits us so well, Jamie, because not only do we love to travel and we're both entrepreneurs and business owners, like one of the big reasons we both started a business for ourselves was because we wanted to travel and we wanted experiences and to see the world.
Absolutely. And I was just sick of having to beg for time off from my third job, just to beg for those PTO days. So being able to just have that freedom and just those passport in hand and knowing that we're capable, right? It's like not even just literally traveling the world. It's like living all those dreams out loud, knowing that, as cliche as it sounds, the world is our oyster in business and our personal pursuits and our relational pursuits. And when we go on The Amazing Race and the whole thing, literally. So,
where are you right now? Are you still in Oregon?
I am. Okay. I am. I'm still in Oregon for another month and a half, and then venue will change to Vermont.
The world is waiting for you.
Yeah. Yep. Right today on my home in Vermont.
That's so exciting.
Okay, so let's talk about episode 3. I'm loving this season.
It's my favorite season so far. Like right now, I'm really enjoying it. And we were chatting before we pressed record for our podcast. We were chatting about the teams and how their personalities are coming out and just how much we are loving that.
I just love them all. Like sometimes there's like the villain that, or just the people that are just so dumb. You have a hard time liking them because you're like, how did you not know what kind of race you were going on? Right. Sometimes like there's a part of me that like, I don't like, they're sweet, but I'm like, you're just kind of too unsavvy to be loved. But everyone on this season, I do love. Like they have really fun stories and like they all kind of like they just seem really real.
They seem really real. And they also like there aren't any teams so far that are making like just terrible mistakes. But they all
we'll see it. I'm sure we'll see it.
But they all do seem real, right? There have been seasons in the past that I have seen teams. I'm like, those people do not seem like real human beings. Like they are super athletes or I don't know. They just haven't seemed as real to me. Like I'm really enjoying the teams.
Yeah. Or they seem to be like professional actors that they were very aware they were on camera. I don't know, which is fine. I mean, I would hope that I wouldn't like lose my shit in front of the entire nation on television. But at the same time, like when I'm stressed, when I'm tired, when I'm like nervous, like I'm competitive, I don't know, like we've all been in those situations where our shadow self comes out and we don't want anyone to see that. So I know that's the part that is kind of like the thing that makes this race so compelling on television, because we relate, like, what it feels like when your partner is pushing you and bitching at you and you're giving it your best. And we know how frustrating it is to be in the car and not to be at the driver's seat and like knowing the person is driving like a grandpa and the control freak comes out of you, like,
I mean, I couldn't imagine. So let's get into this week's like roadblocks and pit stops and everything. Like I couldn't imagine being the partner standing there, like watching you do one of the tasks. And so this might be something that you guys don't know if you haven't watched the show before, but there are certain tasks that one partner, like you should decide, one partner has to do it and the other partner can't talk, can't help. And so sometimes, like say Jamie's doing something and it's very obvious the part that she's missing or the thing that she needs to do next and she just can't figure it out. And I would just have to be sitting there like,
oh, I would go crazy. I'd have to walk away. Or I'd get us DQ'd or something. Okay, so this episode, we're in Scotland. Have you ever been to Scotland? I have. It's beautiful. And the first task was roadblock. So that means every team has to do the exact same task. Versus the detour, which is when you get to pick. So roadblock was building bagpipes. So I think all the teams knew going into Scotland, they're going to do something with bagpipes. So when the clue had the word bag in it, they like, do you have this in the, who has this in the bag? They all knew. And they had to construct, build their bagpipe and then make sure it actually could fly.
So hard. Like that for me would be a hard task. Do you think you could have done it?
Oh, yeah. I think so. I kind of was like, oh, that one didn't seem that complicated.
To me, it seemed hard.
Yeah. And then they had, I think I probably would have, I mean, I love bagpipe music, but like, I probably would have gone insane just having that playing because they had it was like a bagpipe university. Like it was like a professional group of bagpipers. I don't even know if that's what you call it, but they were playing the entire time. And I was even like, oh my God, make it stop.
Watching the episode, we felt like, make this stop. Could you imagine trying to concentrate and put a bagpipe together for the first time ever with all that going on in the background?
Yeah, no, I couldn't have imagined that at all. But everyone seemed to do it pretty well. Like no one got super stuck on that and moved through. And then okay, so this is where the show got a little interesting. And that was where I was like, God, I don't know which one I would have wanted. There was I don't remember the name of the clue, but the kilts. You had to sing a Scottish like folk song in a kilt and do a little dance with it with these two little kids, or you had to go to a distillery and rebuild a whiskey barrel. So you had to pull off two of the rings, reseal it, and then re-ring it, which was more like that physical labor.
The physical task versus the kind of more theatrical dance memory task.
Yeah. Which one would you have preferred to do?
I always would do the physical task. Like that for me, like I would say 95% of the time, I would be more drawn to the physical task because I know that it is just, I can go in and get it done and just make it happen.
Yeah, same. I think I have a really good memory, but sometimes like if I'm stressed out and like that, like the singing, because you had to memorize the lyrics and there was a little bit of a jig that you had to go through it. But almost all of the teams chose the dance. They chose the kilt. And then they were running through town in their kilts to the pit stop.
Which was awesome.
Yeah. But I will have to say that Arun and Natalia, so that's the father-daughter, who has really struggled with like sense of direction. Like, oh my God, I was just like, oh, please stop with the bad directions.
I mean, I like wonder though, like is this a theme that's going to be happening the whole time? Are they going to be able to figure it out? Like, are they?
I don't think they're going to last if they can't figure it out. Like they're bad in the car. Like first of all, I don't think Natalia is any help. She doesn't seem to be. I mean, that based off of what we're seeing from like the producers. But Arun, like I'm wondering, like why don't they switch places? Like how? Like he does not seem to be a really good navigator. So why don't they switch spots? But they did have
super fans. They're super fans. Like the reason they're on this show is because they watched like every season, every episode.
She was 8 years old. Yeah, since she was 8 years old. So I'm like, so that's why I'm like, how do you not know that driving is such a critical piece? And so they had stick shift in this episode, which I would have I love stick shift. Can you drive a stick?
So I ride dirt bikes, which you have like the clutch and all the things. I've driven a stick shift before, but I'm not great at it. So I would have probably had you drive and I would have been the navigator.
Yeah, I think that probably works best for me too.
Yeah.
But the reason I brought them up is because they were having like the worst day but he was so cute in the dance, like the trousers, you know. But anyway, I was just like, it made me fall in love with them just seeing, because I was kind of like, man, I don't know that they got what it takes, but they nailed that dance.
They did a great job.
They did a great job. I thought that, everyone did a great job. Who really stood out to you as like your favorite of this episode?
I mean, I love Penn and Kim. Is
Yeah.
that his last name? I love Penn and Kim. I really do. When he was in the kilt, and I just love their interactions together as a couple. And like I said last episode, I think they're going to make it really far just because all the other teams are going to fall in love with them like I am, and all the other teams are going to. So they've been a standout to me the entire time.
Yeah, they were my favorite, like my MVP of this episode. I liked them before, but I was like, some of the others just captured my heart a little bit more. I still love the flight attendants. They're solid. Like they're a solid girl team.
They know what's up.
And the DJ girls still kind of annoyed me a little bit, but they had a solid performance today too. But the Holderness, their last name is Holderness. If you want to follow them on Instagram, it's the Holderness family, and they're just so cute. And I love how they are with each other. Like you can tell they're just good friends. You know, like they're tender and respectful. They know each other, how to push each other, but they kind of like hold that space for each other to kind of mess up sometimes. I don't know. I just really liked them. I like their, they genuinely just seem thankful and happy just to be doing that together, which is so cool.
They're the perfect example of, like we were just talking about a minute ago, like you see some couple, like they're on this season because they started making YouTube videos and like funny Instagram videos and stuff and went viral. And so they're on The Amazing Race because they're famous. Like essentially they're like famous in their own space. But they're the couple that you see, and like you see what they put out on social media and they put out in their videos, and then you see them on the show. And they're exactly who they portray themselves to be, I feel like in like that's just who they are. And I think that's why it's so endearing and like why I love them so much.
They're definitely like creeping up there as they're my top 3 for sure.
And then my dudes, of course, like
they're solid. I mean, they're not my favorite, but they're solid. They're gonna, I mean, you know, we've watched the show enough to know like when 2 guys are that solid, they're smart, they're fast, they're fit,
they're good looking.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that necessarily gives you an edge when
it does.
People will help you, right? But they don't really seem to need much help. But no, I think that they'll be in the final. Let's talk about who was a freaking disaster this episode. Carol and Ray, the Love Island couple. Oh, I don't see like happy ever after in the cards for them. What do you think?
No, I think that Love Island is the reality show for them and not The Amazing Race. And I'm sorry.
He was kind of a dick. I'm sorry. If you ever see this, Ray, like, I'm glad if you guys are not together. Well, if you're together, then just ignore me. But if you're not, like, Carol is better off because you were a little bit of an asshole.
Yeah. Like, you know, and this is the perfect example when you said, like, people under pressure and in stressful situations, they act differently. And this is not like getting dates on a beautiful island and free drinks and, you know, romance. No, this is real life. Like, this is real travel. And that's why they love The Amazing. I mean, whether you're on The Amazing Race or you're traveling in real life, these are situations you're going to come up against flight delays. You're going to come against, you show up to a hotel and maybe it looked great online, but it's crappy. Or you go on a tour that you think is going to be amazing and it's terrible. And it's how you react, or you have a taxi driver that's terrible. That happens in real life.
Yeah. Or you're just jet lagged, or the weather doesn't cooperate, or you don't feel good, or you are running behind, like, or you're just your person that you're traveling with is annoying you and you can't go take space. Like,
or you're Ray and you're just a dick. Like, you know?
Yeah. But the navigation seemed to be kind of an illuminating experience for them. Same with Akbar and Sherry. Like, I love them and I love their story like the most, but I do think too, their lack of physical fitness, like I'm kind of surprised. I mean, we're fitness coaches for a living. So people, you know, you can't like get fit overnight and undo years and years of, you know, lacking in your wellness. And, you know, maybe they had a 2-month lead in and there's only so much you can do. that being said, I am a little surprised that having been college athletes and knowing this is a physical, competition, they aren't a little bit more prepared. I don't know. Is that mean of me to say?
No, it's not mean of you to say, it's true. And that being said, you do see that D1 college athlete come out.
Yeah. But in both of them. And also like in that, that she doesn't like wilt, because he's like hard on her, and she doesn't wilt under it. So you're kind of like, whatever, I'll take it. Like, and then comes full circle afterwards. I think you're a little bit more just a fit overall than me. Like not just whether how in shape we are, but you're more of an athlete than I am, Court. And I've never been one that can like push myself to my breaking point physically. Like I've played sports my entire life, but it's like, I'm like, I'll modify just because I don't want to go all out. So I get that part. Like I can empathize with Sherry in the sense like, there's just not that bone in me that's like, I will just like push through the pain. And like, I don't really, that's just not how I really am. I'm like, oh, I'll take it easy. I mean, I will compete, but I'll like be the one having the hyperventilating, like side stitch and like crying because I'm so frustrated versus like just running through it. So
yeah,
I do get that, but I would, I always think, okay, what would I do? What would you do to get in shape for this? What's your training plan? I mean, I know we work out for a living, you guys, so we're always at this base level of fitness. Or I mean, hopefully like that's our job, but obviously to get prepared to be sprinting through big cities, running up mountains, like physical labor, we have to be prepared for all of the possible scenarios. So just our normal workouts aren't going to cut it. So what would you do?
So here's something about me that's very interesting. I will do like a CrossFit workout or lift weights or, do any sort of HIIT style workout to the point of puking, right? Like I will push my limits and my body. I cannot run. When I say I cannot run, I mean, when my husband and I first met like 12 years ago, I got him to sign up for a 5K with me. I was like, oh my God, let's do a 5K together. It'd be so much fun, right? It'd be so much fun. And he was like, okay. So I went out on the trail every day and I like ran and trained for it. And he did not train at all. We go out to do the run. And he's like, all right, I'm going to run with you the whole time. And the first 3 minutes he runs with me. And then he's like, oh my, like, I can't do this. There are old ladies speed walking past you, Courtney. Like you are the slow, what is going on? And he goes, I'm not a short person. I'm 5'10". Like I have long legs. And he's like, what is happening? You are literally running 13-minute miles. It's 5K. Like what is happening? And I'm like, this is just my pace. So I would probably run. And I would really work on I'd probably hire a running coach and work on my running endurance, because that has always been a weakness of mine. And then I live in the mountains, right? So I would be outside doing tasks. And I think there's a lot of benefit of doing workouts in the gym like we do, or we work out at home. I have my, where's my bike? I have my bike back there somewhere, riding my bike. But I think, especially for the Amazing Race, I would be outside in the elements, like on a cold, rainy day in my rain gear, like running, like carrying a rock or something weird.
Yeah. I love it. Would I what?
Would you be doing yoga and being like, I was doing yoga and meditating?
No, heck no. I want to win. No, yoga's not going to get us anywhere on the race, other than like sometimes we might need to zen out. I'll get back into running shape, but I'll be also on the treadmill with like I'll be doing it with like a huge backpack. So I'll do as much training as I can, like pack that backpack full so that I'm just used to carrying that weight. That's the hardest part, is like all that extra weight. I know that I would get a swimming coach, I think, because that's like the best cardiovascular. Not that we don't see swimming a lot, but we see swimming sometimes. But ultimately, I think that's going to give endurance for me just at this, like, and swimming's really hard. It helps learn how to like regulate that breathing, which sometimes for me, when I'm struggling physically, it's because I feel I self-diagnosed with like exercise-induced asthma, which I don't think I have. It's just me being out of shape. And I'm like, it's my asthma. And I'm like, I told my doctor that one time, long time ago. She goes, who told you you have asthma? I'm like, it just hurts. It hurts to breathe when I'm like running. And she's like, that's because you're probably out of shape. Like, I'm like, okay.
You're like, I'm a fitness coach. I know.
Whatever. So I would do that. And I probably would go to like some CrossFit style, boot camp style classes, like where you're playing with the ropes, you're flipping the tires, just a lot of that physical brute force stuff that we see a lot on the race. I'd get on a Stairmaster with a backpack and just climb.
Do you know what I would do too? Probably if like when we get cast, I'm not saying if, I'm saying when we get cast, I would take some dance classes because I have zero rhythm. See me on the dance floor after a couple of drinks and things look good to me. Maybe I think I look good, but like like I'm sure people watching me are like, what is going on over there? Like I don't have the rhythm. And there's a lot of dance challenges. There's a lot of
there is a lot of dance challenges. I mean, we've seen surfing, we've seen skiing, we've seen bobsledding, like curling, and we've seen it all.
But every season there's dance.
There's dancing. Yes, every season. And I mean, not spoiler alert, but there's a dancing one. There's like a few in these first handful of episodes where there's maybe not dance, but some sort of a rhythm music.
This episode, they did the kilts and they had to do the song and little dance.
Yeah. And they had to do it again if they didn't get it totally right. So the series was fine for me. Huh?
Here's the thing. I really, truly believe, and I feel like dance is a universal language. So you can be in Spain and learning like flamenco or whatever. And if you understand how to learn from any instructor, the beats and the beats and how to match all together.
That's always a fork. There's like, I know there's always like a count. So like with dancing, there's a base, like usually it's a 4 count. And if you can learn how to identify what the 4 count is when you're doing a dance, and that is the full extent of my dancing skill knowledge right there, is that there's a 4 count. But that will help you retain it and then you can break it down and learn step by step. So that's a good idea too, is like, taking some dance classes just to learn how to pick up a routine. I think of all those like great movies from the 90s where like the girl's coming into her own, she's like struggling in ballet school because they've broken her spirit and she just doesn't love the sport anymore. And then she goes to like the inner city dance class and like throws herself in with the inner city kids and like finds their love, that formula for the 90s dance movie that we've seen sometimes. That's what I envision for myself living in Central Oregon. That doesn't exist, but
and then moving to like the mountains of Vermont. That's gonna be great.
Yeah,
you're gonna find it.
Yeah, I'll find it. All right. Well, that was the kind of the long and short of it. This episode, we teased it last time that after this episode, the pandemic hits.
Yeah.
So this was February of 2020, where these first few episodes, I just gave myself chills. And so we know that episode 4 opens up a year and a half later, right?
Which is crazy. Yes. So we don't know. And so we don't know yet what teams come back because a lot of life happens in the year and a half in between the pandemic hitting and them resuming filming. Like, are Caro and Ray still together? Like, what's happening? So we don't really know yet who's coming back and what's happening. Where were you February 2020? So that's when they shut down.
Yeah. So actually that day, so the next episode, they tell you February 28th is the day that shut down. So February 28th, I actually hiked out of the Grand Canyon the day before that. And I went with my coaching team. I brought a group. We went into the Havasu High Reservation in Havasu Falls, and we were there for 5 days. And we hiked out the day before and spent that day, the 28th, at the South Rim, and stayed there for a night. And then we all flew home. So I know exactly where I was because that was the day I flew home, was the first US, which is why they probably shut it down that day, because that was the first COVID confirmed case in Seattle in the United States that day.
Wow.
Or death. Maybe it was the first death, not the first case, but the first confirmed COVID death or something like that. It was like a really pivotal day. And then it was a couple weeks later that like, because at that point, Italy was already locked down. Like Italy, I mean, they weren't in Italy, like, right? They were in Scotland, but at that point, Italy had already locked their entire country down. So had Germany. So we weren't really feeling it in the US much that day, that week, but that only came 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Where were you?
I was like 8.5 months pregnant.
Oh yeah.
I was living in a camper full time.
Yes.
My husband and I lived in a camper, and I had like the whole lineup for me during that time period was insane, because the middle of February, I went on a cruise, which we now know is like the worst place to be. I was like in the incubation period, right? I was on a cruise, and then I got back and I immediately flew to Utah for a coaching retreat, right? With the women on my team, which was awesome. And I remember my mom actually, because I was like 8 months pregnant, my doctor was like, you shouldn't be flying this late in your pregnancy. I'm like, I'm fine. My mom like made me wear a mask on the airplane. And this was like before masks were a thing.
Before we were masking,
and
yeah.
she gave me all these sanitizers, and she was like, just be careful. Like there's a lot of germs when you're flying, and she was like, there's stuff going on. Like she like knew about it. And I was like, I'm fine, Mom. So flew to Utah. Then we get back from Utah March 1st. Like things are starting to happen. My husband and I go to Daytona Bike Week with 250,000 people. I am 8.5 months pregnant, like literally right when it's all spreading massively. And this is before we know. So right after Daytona Bike Week, we start making our way from Florida back to Colorado, because I'm going to give birth here in Colorado. Everywhere we stop, like we stopped in New Orleans, we're downtown New Orleans, we're at Cafe Du Monde, I'm eating beignets. The next day they shut down the town of New Orleans. We go to Dallas.
Station Zero and all of those places.
Like literally, we go to like Houston, Texas, and we go to a Walmart, and people are like clearing the shelves of toilet paper, and we're like, what is happening here? And the next day they shut down Houston and then Dallas, like everywhere. On our way back into Colorado, they were talking about shutting down like the borders to the state, and people were like, don't come back here. It was just such a wild, surreal. I mean, just 2 years ago, and our lives have all changed so dramatically. And I think some for the better, and some for the worse. Like everybody's had a different experience with COVID, and some people have lost family members and lost friends, and it's affected their lives dramatically. And, you know, it's been a really hard time for a lot of people, but it's also been a time, like for my family and I, we had a new baby. My baby was born April 22nd, 2020 in the hospital, like wearing masks and under lockdown, and my family couldn't come out, and my husband's family couldn't come out, and nobody met my son didn't meet any family members until months after he was born. And it was such a strange time, but at the same time, it was a great time for us and our family, because we really got to become this unit together and grow together. So
I think that's a beautiful way to look at it. I try to go to that gratitude place in all aspects of life, but I won't lie, like it's been the shittiest 2 years of my life. So a marriage ended, my dog died, like we had fires in Oregon, you know, had a home break-in, like the list keeps going and going. And like little things, just, you know, I talk about that COVID, that trauma piece. Like sometimes I just like start like the weight of it all. Like it's just so heavy, you know, it's just so heavy. And I want that feeling that I had, you know, we talk about where we were, you know, February of 2020. I'm like, I just want to feel again. Like I feel so numb and like weighted down by the weight of all of that's happened, and just the collective hurt. And I know so those of you not watching are not new to us, like Courtney and I have very different COVID, like lives are, like she's, we have just, without any judgment, but our kind of approach and attitude around the pandemic couldn't probably be more different. And that's okay. I mean, we're obviously still friends, but like, so our experience has, and our experience has shaped that, like how we feel and that, where we go with this. But I think I grieve, and that's what I'm fighting for. And part of this, letting myself be excited about traveling around the world again. And because I lost even my like heart for traveling. I'm like, I don't know that I want to go anywhere. Like, home is what feels safe. And so moving across country, I feel like I'm blowing up this like sanctuary that I've like hermited in. And so, I think I just miss the me that feeling that me that without all this heaviness,
Yeah.
So
I think that's one of the reasons that we're both so drawn to The Amazing Race and that we love this show so much and that we're so passionate about it. And like why we're doing this podcast is because watching it and getting to experience the world and the different cultures, and it reminds us that the world is waiting.
Yeah, the world is waiting. And I am so thankful that I've had the chance, I have the business, we have the space, we have the community to like be virtual and stay home and feel safe and figure out what that safe feels like to us. And also that's not a way to live. And so I know I've had to work through over the last several months, and what I see people, they're stuck in how to like, we say we want to go back to normal. We're never going to go back to normal, but like, so what is that? So we can't go back to what it was. We have to figure out a new normal. And like that leap of faith, that jump, especially as like things haven't even calmed down, it's just hard to know how to navigate that. So if we can jump first and show the world, like show our friends and our family and our community how to just trustful. And I've now had COVID 2.5 times in the last 4 months.
How do you have it a half time?
I like relapsed, Court. It was so great. It was like 2 weeks later. It was I relapsed. So it was like technically still COVID, but it was the same thing I just had and gotten better for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I got the one that I lost my smell. And then a month later got Omicron, which was way worse, by the way, like way worse.
Oh, really? Everybody says it's not as bad.
No, it was way worse for me. I'm like 104 temperature. I was in the hospital. Like I couldn't get my fever to break for days. It was crazy. And I'm vaccinated. So regardless, now I feel like I'm like super immune. So I've got vaxxed. I've been 2 different types of antibodies. I'm like, I'm going to go get boosted. I'm like, bring it on. Just kidding.
And I'm over here like complete opposite. I'm like, don't touch me. I won't get tested unless somebody forces me to get tested. Like, unless it's for travel or like I have to, like, I have family members that are compromised or whatever, I'll get tested. But I am like opposite, and I haven't, knock on wood, had COVID yet. So that I know of.
You're sick right now. It could be. I mean, I would say if you've got a cold, it's probably COVID. That's kind of my.
But it's like to me, I'm like, it's the flu, right? We got the flu. It's like, I don't know. So once again, hence we have very differing opinions on this, but we are still friends.
Oh
and,
yeah.
And it's that's the beauty of life.
Yeah. So all this COVID talk to say, like next episode, we're gonna be plopped into present day, or I mean, a few months back present day. So all of these contestants, we do know that several of the teams didn't come back.
Yeah.
And we do know that I think, did we say last time that they brought back some
eliminated teams?
Yeah, because they just didn't have enough people. So we'll get caught up on what their COVID life was like, and then just start racing again. There's been we're reading up and learning more about the season. There's been some other really cool changes that the pandemic forced the show's hand on how to navigate this worldwide, because obviously every country is different. The reality and the risk is real. And so anyway, we're excited, and we're so thankful you're watching this with us too. We're like so having fun with this.
Yes, you guys, like it, share it. You know, if you're watching Instagram or YouTube or wherever, share it with your friends. And we appreciate it. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, make your predictions in the comments below wherever you're watching this or listening to this. So which teams do you think will or won't come back? Do you have any predictions on that without Googling it? Where do you think? Who do you think is going to still be in it? Okay, bye guys.